One of the best experiences you can have with a game, movie, album, or any great piece of media is to somehow miss all the hype about it. You don't see any of the ads, you don't hear about it from a friend, you just discover it by yourself with no preconceived ideas of what you're getting into. Imagine watching a movie like The First Matrix or The Sixth Sense like that. Maybe you can find a copy of a game in that bargain bin like I did with Mass Effect and buy it just because the cover looked cool, only to find out it was one of the best games you'll ever play. That's exactly what happened to me recently, going back and beating this little gem called Binary Domain.
It's coming! Just hold them off! Incoming! I don't know about this. Oh, what the hell? Why not?
Now, I'll just tell you right off the back, I'm a sucker for a story with cool robots in it, and the near future world of Binary Domain promised many cool robots. The year is 2080. The place? Tokyo, Japan. Global warming has finally screwed the world, and robots do most of the work now since many of the humans have passed away from environmental disasters. Thanks, Trump. Now, that's just a basic backdrop against which our story begins as your elite combat unit infiltrates the Japanese coast. Since the country has once again isolated itself from the rest of the world, they can't exactly go through an airport.
Don't panic, folks. We're here just inspecting the emergency escape route. All okay?
Yes. Sure, everything checks out.
Outstanding.
Your Rust crew is there to investigate whether it was a Japanese scientist who was responsible for violating a global treaty on robots that can pass as human, after just such a machine suddenly attacking the headquarters of the biggest and very shady robotics company in the world. Now, you guys already know I play a lot of shooters, probably more than your average gamers do, and I have to say that no other shooter feels quite like Binary Domain to play. One of the main things it accomplishes is the ability to make you feel like you're in a squad of other players. The squad AI was something that really impressed me back then, and it's still somewhat impressive today. Each member of your squad has a distinct personality, look, and fighting style. And the cool thing about this is depending on how you treat them during your gameplay will actually have consequences on their level of trust and feeling towards you in the story.
You need glasses or what?
The game story is actually a very memorable one, and if you ever wished for a good Terminator game, I'm looking at you, Bethesda, this is as close as you're gonna get. Fighting these Japanese combat droids is nothing like fighting enemies in other games. Okay, maybe that's not entirely true, but it does remind me a little bit of fighting necromorphs in Dead Space. Not necessarily in how you fight, but in how you have to think about it. Necromorphs are vulnerable to limb damage, not headshots, and so it is the same with the robots in Binary Domain. You can think of them as human targets, but really they're just human-shaped ones. Blowing the legs off of a combat droid hardly seems to slow it down, and there's plenty of places in the game where you'll need to work closely with your squad to survive. It's also fantastic how the robots will adapt their tactics based on things like body damage. Their bodies are destructible in a finely detailed way. I really liked how much variation there is in this game's gameplay. We often accuse games of being repetitive, and I think Binary Domain is one game that you can't level that accusation against. I wish more shooters would change up how you'll play or what you'll do next. Yes, it can be risky since one badly executed section of novelty gameplay can make the player put the game down, but I appreciated it even in the more rough sections of the game, just to get away from the cover shooter mechanic. This was a game that understood the whole if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nailed dilemma. The campaign is about 10 hours long and feels even shorter thanks to the consistent action and variation you get to do in the game. Being a good shooter and having decent writing is enough to make a game good, but for it to deserve a second look years later, it has to have tried some new things and to be a unique experience. Binary Domain experimented bravely in a couple of ways, and that's possibly why it didn't do as well as it could have the first time around. I respect the hell out of developers that do take a chance on some experimental game design ideas or mechanics. Sometimes it pays off big time, launching entire genres and franchises, and other times the world or technology is just not ready to make it all work. One of the most interesting ideas in this game is the usage of voice recognition to manage your squad's tactics. You could call out to one of your squad members to cover you or to attack just using your voice. Now, the voice recognition wasn't particularly sophisticated and it did hit or miss at some points, but when it worked, it felt pretty natural.
I love a chaff grenade in, okay? Roger that. Here goes. Okay, the enemy knew that would work.
This is a concept that I would love to see tried again using much better cloud-powered voice recognition. While it was very cool to play this way, it wasn't a solid enough mechanic to carry through the whole entire experience, and eventually I found myself just using controller-based squad commands instead. But regardless, hats off to the developer for at least trying something new, and I really wish it could have worked out better. To say that Binary Domain is a game that didn't sell well is a huge understatement. In North America, it barely cracked 20,000 units, and in Japan it made about only 80,000 sales. Why it flew so far below the radar is something I'll never truly understand, but this game is so much more than just another third-person cover shooter. Yes, there are many problems with the game which hide its more brilliant parts, and yes, the writing can be downright corny at times, but if you're in the right mindset, that's actually fun. In the end, there's enough good stuff in Binary Domain to far outweigh the bad. Enough so that I recommend that anyone who likes a good sci-fi, anime, goof, and interesting shooter gunplay can pick it up on sale or used. The last gen console version of this game had some real frame rate issues though, so if you can, I would highly recommend you pick it up on PC. But it's important to note that the PC port is also not that great when it comes to things like graphic options and decent PC interfaces. But if you play the game with an Xbox controller on PC like I did, you'll be fine, and the smooth frame rate is well worth the flawed port.
Your aim is fantastique, monsieur.
For all its faults, this is a game that was developed by the same people who made the Yakuza games. A lot of talent and hard work has gone into it, but ironically, Binary Domain is not a game you can just judge as being good or bad. The truth is, the game is more of a shade of gray, and for the gamer looking to expand their experience a little beyond just the mainstream, Binary Domain comes highly recommended by me.